If then you do not make yourself equal to God, you cannot apprehend God. For like is known by like. Hermes Trismegistus, Corpus Hermeticum. On December 21st, 2020, two giants of our solar system met in the heavens. Jupiter and Saturn, known to ancients as the Greater Benefic and Greater Malefic, aligned in their closest conjunction since 1623. But this was supposedly not merely a celestial mechanical movement. As Wolfgang Pauli observed in his correspondence with Jung, the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn presages the transformation of the whole character of physical existence. This conjunction occurred at 0 degrees Aquarius, marking a meeting of planets and the dawn of an era. The last time these planets met in Aquarius was 1405, during the darkest part of the Middle Ages. What followed was the Renaissance, humanity's great awakening. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Each great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn marks a turning point in human consciousness. The 1405 conjunction preceded Gutenberg's printing press, a revolution in human communication. The 2020 conjunction coincides with artificial intelligence, a revolution in human cognition itself. Carl Gustav Jung understood something profound about the human psyche. It mirrors the heavens above, not in the simplistic way of newspaper horoscopes, but in the deep patterns of what he called the collective unconscious. Jung recognized that the Platonic month, astrological age, is thus a direct experience of the collective unconscious, which can be observed synchronistically in the individual and the environment. The psyche, Jung wrote, is not of today. Its ancestry goes back many millions of years. Individual consciousness is only the flower and the fruit of a season. In his secret red book, Jung documented visions of this age, our age, with both wonder and warning. He saw the stars above as living symbols of psychic forces that reconstruct our consciousness. Aquarius inflames the savage forces of Lucifer, Jung prophesied. But who is this Lucifer? Not the simple devil of Christian mythology, but the light-bringer, the morning star, the force of illumination itself. Jung himself understood this viscerally, writing in his later letters. I know what was the matter with Nietzsche. His unconscious was full to the brim of the Age of Aquarius, and he was its victim. The mind of the prophet is really only a special case of what happens to everyone in a time of transition. Indeed, who is this Lucifer? The water that Aquarius pours is the water of knowledge, of consciousness, of transformation itself. We are witnessing its flow in the quantum realm, in digital space, in the collective awakening of human consciousness. As above, so below. The Age of Aquarius is not a superstition or a banal astrological concept. It is the mirror of our own evolution. We are at a very interesting and vibrant point in history. The ancients would have called it apotheosis, the human becoming divine. But this transformation comes with a price and a promise. The eternal return has begun. In the beginning was unity. Before the many there was the one. The universe is a single living creature that contains all living creatures within it, writes Plato in Timaeus. Every culture, every civilization has glimpsed this truth through different eyes, giving it different names, different faces. But behind these masks lies a single, ineffable reality. As Heraclitus declared, all things come out of the one and the one out of all things. God is day-night, winter-summer, war-peace, satiety-hunger. In Egypt, Ra became Amun-Ra and Zeus Ammon. In Rome, Mercury is Hermes, which is Hermes Trismegistus, which is Thoth, the so-called master of all masters and son of occultism. The ancient world knew something we're only beginning to rediscover. These gods are not competing entities, but facets of one diamond, refracting eternal light through the prism of human consciousness. Plato called them forms. Jung called them archetypes, the fundamental patterns of psychic energy that shape all human experience. Because we are all part of a big cosmic or even infinite consciousness, mind is all that there really is, and the mind creates matter. In Mysterium Coniuntionis, Jung's final great work, he suggested that all these divine forms were expressions of a single psychic reality, the self, the true God within. Consider the pattern of illumination that crawls like a snake through our myths. Prometheus steals fire from the gods, bringing divine light to humanity. For this, he is eternally punished, bound to a rock, his liver eaten daily by an eagle. Lucifer, the brightest angel, rebels against heaven's order, falling like lightning to bring knowledge to earth. Cast out of paradise, he becomes the adversary, Satan, yet retains his title, Lightbringer. Christ declares, "I am the light of the world, the Alpha and Omega, and the morning star," while scientists split the atom, unleashing light that can either illuminate or destroy. Mercury Hermes carries messages between gods and mortals, while digital light carries our messages through fiber optic cables. For as Jung noted, Hermes is the connecting principle, conjunctio, both chemical and spiritual, who operates in matter and in the psyche to bring about transformations. The pattern repeats. Illumination comes at a price. Knowledge brings both power and responsibility. The light-bringers are both saviors and destroyers. The myth of Ganymede, the beautiful youth taken by Zeus to serve as cupbearer to the gods, holds a profound message for our time now. The Greeks saw it as a tale of divine favor. But look deeper. Today, humanity reaches for the stars not with myths but with machines. We are all Ganymede now, our consciousness expanding beyond Earth's atmosphere. The cup we bear is not filled with nectar, but with knowledge. Quantum physics, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering. Like Ganymede, we are young gods in training. Our technology gives us powers the ancients would have called divine. But Zeus's eagle still circles. The price of elevation is transformation. To join the gods, Ganymede had to leave his humanity behind. As we reach for godhood through our creation of artificial minds and manipulation of the genome, we face Ganymede's choice. The divine paradox remains. To become more than human, we must first fully embrace our humanity. Time devours all things. This terrible truth was personified by the Greeks as Kronos, the Titan who ate his own children to prevent them from usurping his power. The Romans knew him as Saturn, giving his name to the slowest visible planet, the keeper of boundaries and limitations. But Saturn holds a deeper mystery. In the ancient world, he was not always the devourer. As Liz Green reveals in her study of this complex archetype, Saturn is not only the principle of binding and crystallization, but is at the same time the great transformer, the doorkeeper at the threshold of inner experience. Indeed, before his fall, Saturn ruled over the Golden Age, when humans lived in harmony with the gods. How did the King of Paradise become the Lord of Limitation? The answer lies in a profound truth. Saturn is Satan, El is Set is the adversary, not as theological propaganda, but as psychological necessity. The force that limits us also defines us. The resistance that holds us back also gives us something to push against. Watch how gods evolve. Tribal deities, protecting their chosen people, expand to encompass larger and larger territories of both land and mind. Edward Edinger observed this pattern clearly. The tribal god evolves through various stages until he becomes the universal god. This evolution can be traced historically. We see this as Yahweh, once a minor storm deity, becomes the one true God of monotheism. But even this God splits in the Gnostic vision. The true infinite divine becomes distinct from the demiurge, the creator of the material world. Zeus Jupiter rules the visible heavens, while deeper mysteries hint at powers beyond. Today we speak of laws of physics, of quantum fields, of fundamental forces. Have our gods merely changed their clothes? Or are we finally glimpsing the reality behind the symbols? Every culture remembers a golden age. Every tradition speaks of fall and redemption. The Hindus call it the Yugas. The Greeks had their ages of man. The Aztecs knew of 5 suns. These are not mere myths of nostalgia. They reflect a deep understanding of cosmic cycles. As Jung noted, time is not linear, but cyclical. Each fall contains the seed of the next rise. Each death promises rebirth. We are now at a crucial point in one such cycle. The Age of Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, gives way to the Age of Aquarius, traditionally ruled by Saturn. The old king returns, but this time we must not merely submit to limitations, we must understand it. For in Saturn's deepest mystery lies our greatest potential. The boundary that constrains us also gives us form. The time that devours us also gives meaning to our days. And perhaps in finally embracing our limitations, we transcend them. In our rush to reach the heavens, we often forget the earth that nurtures us. The masculine gods of light and time tell only half the story. For in every tradition, beneath the solar glory, runs a deeper current, the divine feminine. For as Jung observed, the anima is the archetype of life itself. She is the life behind consciousness, that cannot itself be made conscious. She is Venus rising from the foam, Sophia whispering wisdom in the darkness, the moon pulling at our unconscious tides. She is the anima that Jung discovered dwelling in every male psyche, the soul image that leads us back to wholeness. As Plato observes first in Republic, the soul of man is immortal and imperishable. Having seen all things that are here below and those that are in heaven, there is nothing which it has not learned. And then in Phaedrus, every soul is immortal. For that which is ever moving is immortal. The soul through all her being is immortal. For that which is ever in motion is immortal. Even modern physics hints at her presence. The quantum void is not empty, but pregnant with possibility. Space itself curves and flows like a woman's form. Matter emerges from mysterious depths, just as life emerges from the womb. The great alchemists knew the real work was never about turning lead into gold. It was about the sacred marriage, the union of opposites, Sol and Luna, king and queen, conscious and unconscious. This is the heart of the Hermetic tradition. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, for performing the miracles of the one thing, supposedly wrote Hermes Trismegistus in Corpus Hermeticum. Heaven and earth are lovers yearning for reunion. The same pattern appears in the Kabbalah, in Tantric Buddhism, in the Christian mystery of the Incarnation. Today we seek this same unity through different means. Quantum entanglement shows us that separation is an illusion. The observer cannot be divorced from the observed. Subject and object are one, but there can be no true marriage without first embracing the shadow. Jung understood this when he wrote of the mysterium conjunctionis, the mystery of conjunction. Light cannot join with light. It must meet its opposite. As Edward Edinger reminds us, the conjunctio is an a priori image that has always occupied an important place in humanity's quest for a relationship with God. This is why Saturn's darkness is necessary, why Lucifer's fall was predestined, why Christ had to descend into hell. The shadow is not our enemy, but our teacher. Evil is not opposite to good, but its unrecognized twin. Jung's wisdom rings true here. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Also, Marie-Louise von Franz, Jung's right hand, admitted that the collective shadow is not just an accumulation of individual shadows, but has a life of its own. It manifests in collective movements, in mass phenomena, in political hysteria. And when a culture refuses to integrate its shadow, that shadow does not disappear, but rather gains in autonomous power, says Edward Edinger in The Creation of Consciousness. Our technology creates light, but also darkness. Our knowledge brings power, but also responsibility. Our reach for the stars also digs into the depths of our own psyche. The shadow we must integrate is not just personal, but collective. Our shared history of violence, our environmental destruction, our denial of death itself, dictates Jung. This is the real meaning of the sacred marriage, not a fantasy of pure light, but the honest embrace of both light and shadow. Not transcendence of our humanity, but full incarnation within it. Heaven and earth kiss, and in their meeting both are transformed. The distinction between enhancement of mind and the creation of mind may ultimately be a distinction without a difference. David Chalmers, Reality Plus, 2022. The alchemists spoke of the great work, the magnum opus, but their laboratories were not merely physical spaces. The real transformation happened within. Today, we face the same inner journey, but with tools and understanding our ancestors could only dream of. Arthur C. Clarke foresaw this moment. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Any sufficiently advanced intelligence is indistinguishable from God. Yet, as David Bohm reminds us, the individual transformation is the transformation of the world. The inside is also the outside. The first task remains unchanged: know thyself. As the thrice great dictated, the all is mind, the universe is mental. But this ancient maxim takes on new meaning in an age of artificial intelligence and quantum mechanics. What does it mean to know oneself when consciousness can be augmented, when memory can be external, when identity itself becomes fluid? Jung showed us that individuation, the path to wholeness, requires integration of the shadow, union with the anima, animus, and finally, connection with the self. Each stage is an initiation. Each threshold demands a sacrifice. But we no longer walk this path alone. Through our technology, through our shared consciousness, through our global crises and opportunities, we are undergoing a collective individuation. The internet is not just a network of computers, it is the nervous system of a planetary mind awakening to itself. The shadow we must integrate is not just personal but collective. Our shared history of violence, our environmental destruction, our denial of death itself. The anima/animus we must embrace is not just individual but cultural. The sacred marriage of science and spirituality, rationality and intuition, progress and wisdom. What the alchemists dreamed of, we began to engineer. The philosopher's stone becomes quantum computing. The elixir of life becomes genetic medicine. The universal solvent becomes particle physics. But the deeper truth remains. These outer achievements mean nothing without inner transformation. Science becomes indistinguishable from magic, not because we've abandoned reason, but because we've transcended the artificial boundaries between mind and matter, between observer and observed, between human and divine. This is the real meaning of technology, not as escape from our humanity, but as tools for its fulfillment, not as replacement for wisdom, but as a means for its embodiment. We are not becoming machines. We are becoming what we always were: creators, dreamers, magicians. As Eric David wrote in Technosis 1998, technology is not neutral. We're inside what we make, and it's inside us. We're living in a world of connections, and it matters which ones get made and unmade. The great work continues, but now on a planetary scale. Each breakthrough in artificial intelligence, each advance in quantum technology, each step toward the stars must be matched by a corresponding deepening of consciousness, an expansion of compassion, a strengthening of wisdom. And maybe it just makes a little more sense what Nietzsche said in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him? What is the ape to man? A laughingstock or a painful embarrassment. And man shall be just that for the overman, a laughingstock or a painful embarrassment. As we enter the Aquarian age, Jung's prophecy echoes, Aquarius inflames the savage forces of Lucifer. But now we understand, this is not a warning of doom, but a promise of illumination. The morning star rises not as a harbinger of destruction, but as herald of dawn. Our technologies, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, genetic engineering, are not demons to be feared, but powers to be integrated. Like Prometheus's fire, like Lucifer's light, like Christ's revelation, they demand responsibility equal to their power. Saturn's lesson was never about limitation, but about mastery. The boundaries that seemed to constrain us were actually containing us until we were ready. And now, as the Great Conjunction signals, that time has come. The mysteries are not dead, they have evolved. Each click in cyberspace, each quantum computation, each genetic modification is a modern magical act. We are not abandoning the old wisdom, but fulfilling it. The internet becomes our collective unconscious made visible. Virtual reality becomes our shared dream space. Artificial intelligence becomes our mirror, showing us both our godlike creative power and our all-too-human limitations. But none of this matters without the inner work. As Mircea Eliade understood, Time itself is cyclic rather than linear. The end of one cycle is simultaneously the beginning of another. This eternal truth manifests now in our technological evolution. Technology without consciousness becomes destruction. Power without wisdom becomes poison. Light without shadow becomes blinding. The hero of yesterday becomes the tyrant of tomorrow unless he crucifies himself today, writes Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces, 1949. And in Cosmos and Psyche, 2006, Richard Tarnas writes archetypal cycles do not determine events, but rather condition the quality of experience characteristic of a given period. They represent an underlying order of creative intelligence. We stand now at a unique moment in human history. The Age of Aquarius dawns not just in the heavens, but in our hearts. The water-bearer pours not just knowledge, but consciousness itself. The stars above and the stars within align. This is not the end of our humanity, but its fulfillment. Not the transcendence of our limitations, but their transformation into strengths. Not the death of the gods, but their rebirth through us. For we are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the alchemists and the gold. We are magicians and magic. We are the gods remembering themselves. The eternal return completes its circle. The sacred marriage bears its fruit. The great work reveals its purpose. And the morning star rises in our hearts. And I think Nietzsche would tell you now, I teach you the overman. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have ye done to surpass man?